Welcome back. The Hunter Biden bombshell continues. A former Biden family associate, Tony Bobulinski. This is a business associate of Hunter Biden. He spoke out in an interview with Fox News' Tucker Carlson last night. He says Joe Biden had a hand in son Hunter Biden's dealings, and he's denied it repeatedly. Watch this.
The former vice president has said he had no knowledge whatsoever of his son's business dealings.
That's a blatant lie. And in that debate, he made a specific statement around questions around this from the president. And I'll be honest with you, I almost stood up and screamed liar and walked out because I was shocked that after 4 days or 5 days that they prepped for this, that the Biden family is taking that position to the world.
Joining me right now is Pennsylvania Congressman on the Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee, Guy Reschenthaler. Great to see you, Congressman. Thanks very much for being here. You know, you're on the Judiciary Committee. Do you think that your committee should be subpoenaing Hunter Biden?
I think we should. I think we should have had a subpoena out on him before. And we got to remember that Mueller spent millions of dollars during this investigation. You had the press covering the Russia hoax, which is really a conspiracy theory. Mueller did not do a good job looking into what the Bidens were doing in Ukraine. And I think we need to see what Chris Wray at the FBI did with this laptop. If that laptop was sitting around at the FBI for a year or more without them investigating it, sitting on this, then Christopher Wray should be fired. People have not done their jobs, Maria, especially the mainstream media. The way they covered the Trump-Russia hoax and then let this stand by itself without covering it is shameful.
It really is shameful. And last night we saw a lot of important moments that, you know, people really need to look at and take a moment to understand this. I mean, Bobulinski said that when he told his other partners that he was going to go public until they said they cleared his name and stopped calling him Russian disinformation. He says that the associate says, well, wait, you'll bury all of us if you go public with that. That was one incredible moment. And then when Bobulinski asked Jim Biden, aren't you guys afraid that, you know, people are going to say this is wrong, that we're doing dealings with the Chinese company and that Chinese company is actually going to do a deal with Rosneft of Russia? And the partner, Joe's brother looks at Bobulinski and says, yeah, plausible deniability. I mean, all of this was right in the open last night, and you still don't see a word of it on the mainstream media. They are covering Joe Biden.
And you have facts to support it, Maria. You have the actions of Hunter Biden. You have the money that was coming from Burisma. You have the money that was coming from the Russian oligarchs, the $1.5 billion that flowed to Hunter Biden in that fund from China. You also have the fact that Joe Biden and the Biden campaign have not denied any of these allegations. They refuse to take questions. That says a lot about this story. And again, if this were one of the Trump family members, the media would be all over it. The bias is very clear here. The mainstream media is in the bag for Joe Biden.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let me ask you about what's going on in your backyard. We had another night of unrest in Pennsylvania, looting and demonstrations breaking out in Philadelphia overnight following the police shooting of a black man on Monday afternoon. Congressman, several arrests have already been made. What is it going to take to put law and order back into the streets of Philadelphia?
Well, we can start, Maria, with the governor. We have a very far-left governor, Governor Wolf, who's mishandled the lockdowns, but he also has refused to condemn the violence and the looting that we're seeing in Philadelphia. He could stop this by calling the National Guard, by taking more actions, but he will not say anything about police getting attacked and stores being looted. This is really going to help Republicans in the election because it's obvious to everybody that if you are for law and order, if you're against the lawlessness, the looting, the violent riots that you're seeing across the country, just not in Pennsylvania, that you will stand with Republicans and Donald Trump. The Democrats, from Governor Wolf in Pennsylvania to Joe Biden all the way down, have refused to condemn these violent actions.
Yeah, I find that really incredible that we haven't heard any disavowing of all of this stuff. We're 6 days away from the election, Congressman. President Trump and Joe Biden are looking at key battleground states ahead of next Tuesday, including Pennsylvania. What is the sense that you get in Pennsylvania? You think voters are going to turn out next week in the Keystone State? Are they going to turn out for Trump or Biden? How do you feel about these races?
Maria, for me here in Pennsylvania, it feels a lot like 2016, where you have the media and these polls saying that President Trump is lagging. But it feels like there's a lot of groundswell for the president. So my prediction is that Trump wins Pennsylvania come election night, probably by a much larger margin than people are anticipating. But I got to caveat that because the voter fraud issues here in Pennsylvania are rampant. So I think that with 3 days after the election, that's the window where the Democrat activists can go and harvest ballots. You'll see those coming in. And my prediction is that Pennsylvania will actually be decided in a court dispute because of mail-in voter fraud you're going to see come in after the election.
Wow. So, I mean, if let's say President Trump wins by X number of thousands ballots, you think that they're going to say, oh, well, we found 5,000 ballots after the election and whatever it is to put Biden over the edge. Are you going to, but do you have the infrastructure in place to ensure to police that, Congressman? How are you going to police that?
Well, no, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has actually made it hard for us to have poll watchers at these locations to actually watch these votes get counted. But the fact that there's 3 days after the election that these Democrat activists can just manufacture these ballots, it's very troubling. And given the Democrats' violence, their looting, the violent protests that you've seen, voter fraud is actually the least violent thing they can do this election cycle.
Unbelievable. Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Of course, we're going to be covering it all.
Thanks, Maria.
And we'll have you back to talk about it. Congressman Reschenthaler there in Pennsylvania. We'll be right back. Stay with us.